Governments really need and they like to have evidence to support changes that they might want to make or things that they're trying to achieve. From your point of view here at Unlock, what's the evidence that you would point to as to how effective working with offenders around employment issues can actually be in practice?
Training for work only needs to be done if someone is not trained anyway. And I think the majority of people, if you take a person off the street, it might not be, might not be trained to be the chairman of ICI, but they could do some form of work. And to train them, you can train them in-house to do that work. So it would take, for instance, a warehouseman. It wouldn't take long to train someone to drive a forklift, that sort of thing. You could send them on a forklift truck driving course for 2 weeks, and that person's got a job that they're quite happy with for life. So I'd back the government on payment by results. I'd back the government on I want quality service. Because why I back the government on that? Because if they get payment by results and quality service, that means my members are actually getting a quality service and they're not being banged up in the jail. So it's quite shocking. People are quite shocked that I actually back government in a lot of things, but I do back it when it's right. I'll scave it when it's wrong. But I think there needs to be an incentive for the employer, and I think where they've got it wrong is we're very lucky and we're very blessed in that we have employers phoning up and saying, I want to employ people, but we don't know how to interview an ex-offender, what can we ask and all that. And I think there needs to be a sort of, an Unlock could do it, a sort of support mechanism for the employer to say, okay, you're employing an ex-offender, here's a phone that you can talk to us, we can train your staff in interviewing. We've got a helpline here that you can phone us up if you come up with problems, because you will come up with problems with an ex-offender. It might be he ain't got a bank account, it might be do I need extra insurance on my premises, all sorts of things like that. So if everyone focuses on the ex-offender, what they don't focus on is, one, the employment, is there the job out there? Why? I can train him for work, but what work are you training him for, right? Because each work is different to what you would be training for. What market is there? What market needs employees? There's not enough research done on that. But the one they all leave out on is, okay, a moment, the employer needs support. Yeah? Not only does the employer need support, when someone's coming out of prison or someone's got a criminal record, the family of that criminal needs support to keep them on the straight and narrow. There also has to be things where some of them have got tremendous debts. There needs to be financial benefit and debt support agency. Unlock does that, and so does other organisations. So it needs to be, if someone's caught in terrible debt, it's not snatch away their homes, go in and let the bailiffs go around and intimidate them, because all brutality leads with brutality. What you've got to look at is say, okay, banks can write off £30 billion if they get it wrong. I think we've got to look at society and say, okay, sometimes if they've behaved irresponsibly and lent people irresponsibly and people have got debts that they can't afford, it's got to get to a stage where the government go, okay, look, we're going to wipe that out, take that burden off you so you don't go out and have to steal to pay off your debt. So, and I think every home should be protected. You couldn't be able to take someone's home away. You can say, okay, we're going to own your home, but you'll still live in it. To turn people out on the street is in no profit to society, because now you've got people that are dangerous. It's about purposeful activity. It's about not giving people these for instance, anger management course. Oh, he's got anger management. And I talked to a guy who went through that and he said, give me my house, give me a roof over my head, give me a job and I'll stop being angry. So therefore, he didn't have employment, he didn't have a home. And of course he's angry, but they concentrate on he's angry, anger management course. Well, take away the anger, so now we've got anger management course, we've got a housing problem, and we've got an employment problem. Give him the roof over his head, give him employment, you don't have to pay for the anger management. Absolute nonsense. People get angry for a reason. Take away the reason, you ain't got to pay for that course. So, as I said, I'm quite ruthless in that I look and there's a lot of people saying, we make excuses for people's bad behaviour. It's not excuses, it's about looking at a problem and say, if I get rid of that one ceases to exist. So instead of paying for 3, I'm paying for 2. Sounds like a filthy capitalist, and I am. But I'm looking value for money here. Dealing with the problem, not fantasy problem. And not giving people excuses for bad behaviour. And that is what previous governments have done. They've made excuses for unacceptable and appalling behaviour. And so it's become all right, because I can kick someone's door through because I've got challenged behaviour problems. I've got anger problems, but I'll get management. No, You don't kick someone's door through finished, because if you do, you're going to jail. But this is what happens when you go to jail. You serve the sentence, then you're excluded for this. Your parents can't have your own because of insurance. And you explain to people, and this is what I do in schools, I explain to them, crime don't stop when you're arrested and when you finish your sentence. The sentence begins when you come out of jail.
And could you give us some really specific examples about projects that you've seen, things happening on the ground that really demonstrate what you're talking about?
Well, it's varied. If you're talking about the varied groups of people with drug problems, you would look at sort of drug action teams, London drug action teams, cornerstones, that sort of thing. If you're looking at disaffected youth training, you would be looking at the Phoenix project in Birmingham. It does forklift truck driving, it gets you up to key stage level 4. If you were talking about drug addiction and prostitution, you'd be looking at the Man and Women's projects up in Walsall. 98% success rate, very small project, run on a shoestring, takes girls that have been on heroin off the streets and gets them into university, gets them off the drugs, and a very successful rate. But the main thing, I think, if anyone was talking about success, and I think any government body or any charity would have to agree with you, the greatest success to make all that happen was the unlocking financial capabilities, where we got prisoners' bank accounts, because without that they couldn't get into employment, and all the training you give them wouldn't get them nowhere. And also the insurance, because now people can employ people and haven't got to worry about whether they're going to lose their insurance. So, and those two things were the things that were never funded by government, were never funded by no one. And so because they wasn't funded, no one wanted to do them. And Unlock, we're very rich in innovation, we're very rich in political currency, because we don't in competition with anyone. But that innovation we had to do out of our own pocket. Unfortunately, well, with the banking, that's not exactly true, because Lloyds Bank and Barclays and the rest of them came in and put their pot in. But they actually got people into employment. So when we look at what training things work, there are quite a few training things. There's some good training companies out there, there's some bad training companies out there. There's quite more bad than there is good. But it is the things that work, the practical things. And that is what ESF is so good about. ESF can allow a small organisation, like they were a national, and we punch well above our weight, an organisation of thinkers like Unlock, who can go, we identified a problem, bang, now we want to work on that. ESF helps us do that because it's a non-political agenda.